And a big signing today, J-Mac, the Philadelphia 76ers, they go ahead and complete what has been a summer of spending. I mean, Al Horford, they gave big money to $109 million over 4 years. Tobias Harris, they give $180 million over 5 years. And now today, they go ahead and ink one of their young stars, Ben Simmons, for 5 years, $170 million. Your thoughts?
Chris, you know, the NBA, everybody's all a geek that the super teams are done, right? There's no more 3 stars on a team. It's now 2, and there's parity all around the NBA. I hear all these good vibes for the NBA. Chris, I just see it differently. I see small markets getting screwed, and these contracts that are being signed, they're written in pencil, not pen. We've seen the last few summers, Chris, if a star wants out, demand a trade. They're going to move you. Chris, it's that easy. Paul George has done it twice. Well, I'm not going to stay in Indiana. Trade me. Okay. Signs this big deal in OKC after 1 year. I got unfinished business. And then Kawhi Leonard calls him up. You want to come play with me on the Clippers? Yeah, sure. No problem. I mean, Anthony Davis demanded out. These contracts in the NBA are laughable. Chris, I mean, we just saw big-time stars demanding where they want to go and getting it. Now, sometimes you got to wait a minute to get there, but I do believe this Ben Simmons contract, what is it, 5 years you said? I mean, come on.
5 years, 170.
170. I will ask you this, to stick with the gambling. Over under 3.5 years Ben Simmons spends in Philly, meaning will he demand out well before his contract is up? And I do believe he will not do that entire contract in Philadelphia. It is an open secret that he loves Los Angeles, wants to be out here. I know, every
Kevin
NBA
Durant,
star,
as you know, loved Los Angeles.
Kevin Durant loved Los Angeles.
He had a house out here.
Yeah, a lot of NBA players spend.
Half the leagues out here in the summer.
Yeah, here's the best part.
So come on, I mean, what evidence? Right now, there's no evidence that Ben Simmons is going to ask for a trade. And remember, they could trade him as well. And I think they really are going to be watching that. Now that he's locked up, you actually have more leverage in trading him. I'm not saying they signed him to trade him, but if I'm Philadelphia, I'm giving him this year. Now, I've talked before. I mentioned that, you know, Chris Paul to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons is a deal that if I'm the Sixers, I would at least discuss among my brain trust.
What?
Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder. So I get some backup for that.
Chris,
well,
I knew we could get an hour through without.
What's the problem with it?
What's the problem with Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder for Ben Simmons? Are you on
Chris
crack?
Paul and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
What's wrong with you, Chris?
Tell me what's wrong.
I'm dead serious. Are you okay?
I hear you spouting a bunch of nonsense. Tell me what's wrong with it.
Chris Paul, you want to sign one of the worst 3 contracts in the NBA and give up one of the best young players in the league? Are you out of your mind?
No, first of all, I didn't say I would do it. I said if I'm Philadelphia, it's something I discuss with my brain trust. In today's NBA, this is not 2001. When Jason Kidd was fine without a jump shot. This is not 1987 when Magic Johnson was fine without a jump shot. You need to be able to shoot. And as long as Ben Simmons can't shoot, and then on top of that, isn't aggressive half of the time, they got a problem. And I like Ben Simmons. I've liked him since day one. In fact, I liked him at LSU. And I'm not saying I would move him, but it's something I would watch with this team.
So Chris
Because
Paul,
you know what was one of their problems in the playoffs? That they had to put Ben Simmons on the block so the other team would guard him, and that forced Joel Embiid out to shoot threes. Now, I know Embiid likes being out there, but still, for spacing purposes, you had to have your 7-foot center that nobody can stop down low at the three-point line because your point guard can't shoot.
Ben Simmons is 22, turns 23 here in a couple days, okay? He's going to be having a big party out here in L.A. We know he is not going to play for the Australian basketball team this summer because he wants to hang out in L.A., as does everyone. Chris Paul, the guy you're talking about, my brain trust comes to me and mentions Chris Paul. I say, hey, brain trust, go look for another job. Chris Paul fought with Blake Griffin in LA. DeAndre Jordan hated Chris Paul. They had to keep DeAndre Jordan hostage in Dallas to get him back. And Chris Paul had to make all these concessions. Yes, I'll let you shoot now, DeAndre. So that was just that last stop. Then he goes to Houston, and him and James Harden hated each other at the end. So you're telling me you want to put Chris Paul next to Joel Embiid? You want to see fireworks like a week in?
Did you know who Joel Embiid got along with? Jimmy Butler. I could say all the things you just said about Chris Paul about Jimmy Butler. Now listen to this starting lineup. Chris Paul, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, and Al Horford. Does that team not have a chance to win the Eastern Conference Championship?
I think that team does, as well as the one with Ben Simmons at point guard. Both of them do.
And that's why I'm not saying I would do it. But it's something I would watch. I would likely want to see Chris Paul play a month or two wherever he's at, but particularly Oklahoma if that's the case, to see if he still has anything.
Chris, I worry about
Ben
selling.
Simmons. You worry about what?
I worry about selling stars so quickly. I mean, how many times do we have to go through D'Angelo Russell? Lakers gave up on him. You know, he was an all-star last season with the Nets. Now he's got a $137 million contract.
117.
I mean, whatever the number is. These guys, these young players come into the league, and it's like, oh, Markelle Fultz, let's get him out of here. Can't play. Lonzo Ball, let's get him out. All these young guys. Ben Simmons can actually play.
No, can Markelle Fultz literally play? Literally.
I mean, I would have wanted to find out if I were the Sixers, but
he's not even on the court yet. He's still not on the court.
He's 20. He can't even rent a car or go to a bar and have an alcoholic beverage.
Injury, but we're not going to go off on the Markelle Fultz.
I'm just saying,
that was
all
just a
these
bad
guys.
example.
That was
a bad example.
Chris,
you should have chosen more wisely.
Let me just remind you what happened when Joel Embiid missed yet another game because the guy still can't play back-to-backs. Let me just remind you what happened against the Brooklyn Nets when Joel Embiid sat out, right? There was some panic. They lost game one. I think the series was 1-1 going to Brooklyn for game 3. Okay? What did Ben Simmons do? No Joel Embiid on the court. Oh, I've got it right here, Chris. 31 points, 9 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals, shot 11 of 13, and the Nets scored 100. The Nets lost 131 to 115 on the road. Ben Simmons, the best player on the court that night. The idea that he can't shoot. He's 22, Chris. I know that people want to pound Ben Simmons. This guy can play. And given the Joel Embiid injury history, ain't no way on earth I'm pairing Chris Paul and Joel Embiid for like the all-glass team next year. I would not entertain that at all in Philly.
Here's the thing. Ben Simmons, you talking about he can't shoot. Like, he won't shoot.
He won't shoot. Right. That's better.
All right. No, he can't shoot and he won't shoot. I mean, this is not your typical guy that just doesn't have a nice stroke, but he'll take the shot. He won't shoot. Now, again, I'm not saying I would make that move. I would watch this season. And if Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, and Embiid's an issue too, if he can't stay healthy, then I might have to move him. But if Simmons isn't going to shoot, then they can't play together.
Trade everyone.
No, I'm saying if Simmons not going to shoot, he and Joel Embiid are not a good tandem in today's NBA.
Let me ask you this, Chris. Okay, given where we are with both players right now, Embiid battling health, Ben Simmons, big contract, but has not proven that he can make a three-point shot in this league.
A three-point shot?
A mid-range.
How about a 15-footer?
Mid-range shot, okay. Who are you sooner building around out of those two players, given what they've been through the last 3 years in the NBA?
Well, I like Embiid better. But
who are you building
he's got
around?
The health issues.
Right.
Right now, I'm building around both. I mean, I don't have to make that decision if I'm Philadelphia. I've got both players. And they got a nice team. Don't get me wrong. I think they did the right thing to pay Ben Simmons. And I think, just like you said, he might have a wandering eye, which I don't see any evidence of that. But they can have a wandering eye, too. This goes both ways, you know. And for all these players, it doesn't work out. Some of these players need to be careful.
Well,
because for all of them, it doesn't work out when you leave and go elsewhere.
This is interesting because, you know, you are positing that maybe the Sixers have a wandering eye and would look to move Ben Simmons.
I'm just saying, look, they're trying to win a championship. I'm just saying I would watch it. The dude needs to start shooting.
Chris,
this is not a negotiable.
Right.
He's got to develop a jump shot. And while he's in LA, not playing for the Australian team, he better be working on his jumper.
He's going to be working on his club game with the ladies. But Chris,
that's fine. He can work on that, but it's 24 hours in a day.
I don't disagree
and
with
work
that.
on your jump shot, too. A lot of guys got ladies in the NBA. They can still work on their game.
Chris, I just have to ask, the idea that the Sixers would even entertain trading Ben Simmons if he can't shoot or doesn't improve his jump shot, to me is crazy because, and I know Philadelphia is a big city. I lived outside Philadelphia for 7 years recently. That's always an Eagles town. It's always going to be a football town. I don't care what superstar is there. It is a football town. I don't think they can attract NBA free agents. And I don't have the history in front of me. I'm going to go ahead and guess they haven't landed any big fish. I don't think you could ever look to move on from Ben Simmons.
Philadelphia, you act like it's Oklahoma City. Philadelphia is one of the most important franchises in NBA history. They had Wilt Chamberlain. They had Dr. J. They had Moses Malone. They had Allen Iverson. They had Charles Barkley. You talking about Philadelphia like it's, a lower-rung franchise.
Not at all. It is a very good franchise in a large market in that 95 corridor where the Wizards are in New York and Boston. Bottom line is, what big free agents have they gotten in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years?
There's a lot of the Lakers had not gotten a big-time free agent before LeBron went there since Shaq.
Lakers had struggled, but I think we can agree.
I'm just saying,
we can agree, though.
There are a lot of franchises that don't get free agents or haven't gotten free agents, and it's not necessarily because of location or anything like that. When's the last big-time free agent Chicago got? Dwayne Wade?
Their management's been awful. And listen, Boston had this rap, too, until they landed a couple big ones here with Gordon Hayward.
That's what I'm saying. It's not the franchise. There is just only – free agents are only going to go to a few teams. Who would have thought guys were going to go to Brooklyn, and here they go, and they get two of the best – players in the league.
I mean, so basically all the Sixers have to do is get into the Brooklyn Nets blueprint. Because I'm telling you, Chris, no way they're trading Ben Simmons.
You wouldn't give away Ben Simmons. If you trade him, you're getting something big time for him. I'm not saying, first of all, I'm not saying trade him. But what I'm saying is, you watch this season. He needs to come back with a jumper. And if he doesn't, then everything's on the table.
Yeah. Well,
him, Joel Embiid, if assuming they don't go far.
I don't know. Are they currently are they a top 3 team in the East as of this moment?
They're the second best team in the East, behind Milwaukee.
Man, this is hard. I feel like we're being overly critical of the Sixers here. They're the second best team in the East, and if Ben Simmons doesn't have a jumper, let's blow it up. It sounds like that's where you're headed.
Nobody said blow it up. Bringing in Chris Paul wouldn't be blowing it up. That'd be trying to win now. What are you talking about?
It would be suicidal.
See,
to bring in Chris Paul.
trade, every time you trade somebody, it doesn't have to be for future draft picks.
Chris Paul's coming off the worst season of his career.
Well, and that's why I would watch him for a while to see if that was just, if that was age, was that injuries, was that the situation with Harden, or is he just old? I would watch it. But I'm trying to win a championship now. Philly hasn't won since 1983, and my point guard's got to be able to at least take a jump shot. I watched it for 2 postseasons now.
Let me ask you right now.
And here, let me throw this in real quick. The way that Ben, because he's never probably going to be a great jump shooter, but the way he can override that is by being aggressive. You mentioned the 31-point game against Brooklyn. He was aggressive. I need that every night,
It's
Ben.
tough when Joel Embiid's clogging the lane. And then you tell Joel Embiid to go stand at the 3-point line, and he starts giving you grief. It's a difficult fit. I would agree with that. It is an awkward fit.
That was my point for looking at different things. That's all I'm saying.
building
Look
around
at
Ben
options.
Simmons over Joel Embiid in a heartbeat, and it's not even close. Now, I have some allegiances to Ben Simmons since I moved out here in L.A. I know some people in his circle, and I'm a team Ben Simmons guy. I'm not worried about the lack of jumper, frankly. And I would
Why
build
not?
around Ben
How
Simmons.
in the world can you not be worried about
Because
lack
he's
of a jump shot?
22 years old.
So
He's
he's going to
turning 23.
develop it. He's going to be. He'll be. What's this? His 4th year?
He missed his first year.
Yeah,
remember?
but he could have sat that year. He could have been shooting jumpers.
Listen, what's weird is when you see his form in the gym, it's better than Zion Williamson's form. Zion's just not afraid to jack the threes, as we saw in his 15 minutes in the summer league. He's not afraid to shoot it. His form needs a little tightening. Simmons' form is fine. He just doesn't do it in the game. My only fear.
Well, that's a problem.
My fear is he becomes Russell Westbrook. Westbrook famously had the athleticism and just didn't need to become a three-point shooter. I'll just dunk on everybody forever. And now here he is, 30 years old, still can't shoot the threes, and it's a little scary for Russell Westbrook.
All right. Should Sixers fans expect Ben Simmons to reach the end of his max contract in Philadelphia? Should they build around him? You happy with the contract? 5 years, $170 million. Is he worth it, seeing that he can't shoot jump shots?
Jody in Atlanta, you're on with Chris Broussard and Jason McIntyre. Your thoughts on Ben Simmons?
Hey, how y'all doing today?
What's happening, man?
My thoughts are, he deserves the money, but you're right, Chris. If he can't get that jumper right, it's really not going to mean much because this is a jumper league now. If you don't know how to shoot, you really can't ball at the end of the day. And, Jason, you say you know some of his people. You need to tell some of his people to tell him that he needs to show more passion on the court. That's why a lot of people don't really respect him out here in these streets.
Whoa. Time out, Jody. Hold up. Kawhi Leonard show any passion ever?
Kawhi brings it every night. Right.
That's the passion when he's hooping. This guy, Ben Simmons, can't even take a shot outside the box.
Well, now that's different. Passion from attempting jump shots is different.
Here's the thing, Jason. It's not to the extreme of Lonzo Ball, where you have no idea is he going to bring it tonight or not. But Ben does have his nights where he just isn't aggressive. And like you mentioned, I said, the Brooklyn game, 31 points in the playoffs. He was aggressive. That's how he can override his lack of a jumper, because if they're playing off of you to the point where your man is 5-6 feet away from you, then drive at him. Drive to the lane, force the defense to collapse on you, and with his passing ability and his size, he can pick it apart for easy baskets for his teammates. But when he's not aggressive, that doesn't happen.
It's so tough, though, Chris, to be aggressive when the lane is clogged.
That's a little overrated. I get it, having a big man in there, but it's not impossible.
All right, next up, Ennis, one of those two, in New York. You're on with Chris Broussard and Jason McIntyre. What do you got?
Hey, guys. I think I'm a Texas fan. I'm happy that they signed him. And I think the reason they brought Horford in was because Embiid's always hurt, so maybe he's the guy that ends up getting moved. But at the end of the day, I would never trade him for Chris Paul. Chris Paul's the guy who blew a 3-2 lead against the Spurs, a 3-1 lead against the Clippers.
Yes.
When he was with the Clippers, against the Rockets, he always choked. He complained all the time. And, let him stay in some teams. Let him get bought out. And he can go join LeBron and they can lose together. That's what he is. He's a loser.
Woo! Ennis.
Wow.
Hey, turn down your radio next time, Ennis. Off the top rope. I forgot about Chris Paul. You know what it reminds me of? At the beginning of 8 Mile, the movie with Eminem, this guy goes, "This guy's a choke artist." I won't go into the rest of the 8 Mile rap, although I have most of it memorized. But Chris Paul.
I can't picture you rapping, man.
I love 8 Mile. Just the beginning and the end. The rest of the movie is suspect. I can copy 8 Mile.
It was a good movie.
But there's no doubt, Chris, that Chris Paul's a choke artist. The guy just can't deliver when it matters. And listen, it's interesting. I want to ask you this, Chris, because that guy just reminded me of something. Tell me the last NBA champion to build around a big man.
Well, let's see. We had Golden State for years. Toronto this year, Golden State, Cleveland. Who was before that? San Antonio, Miami, San Antonio with Duncan.
Yeah. And he wasn't their best player there at the end.
2014.
So, that was when Kawhi was the
still
MVP.
may have been their best player, but it was very close. He was a shell of himself.
Yes, so it's become a wing league.
Oh, no
Guards
question.
in the regular
No question.
season. But I think the last 5 or 6 NBA Finals MVPs have been wings. And right now, I just don't see a path to building around Joel Embiid. Maybe it's just me.
No, look, it's fair. Embiid is great. And I like him. Obviously, there's a question with his health. How healthy is he going to be? Can he get through a season and a postseason? People forget. Last postseason was a mess with him. It was a freaking adventure. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Is his stomach okay? Like, it was crazy. So, yeah, I mean, look, for Philadelphia, I like what they've done. I think they've gotten better. And I think they got a shot in the Eastern Conference. But if I'm their brain trust, I'm watching closely to see if my two young stars can really develop some better chemistry and their games can get more complimentary. J-Mac, Bet Online just came out with their NBA over-under win totals for the upcoming season. And you are one of our resident gambling experts here at Fox Sports Radio. You got your Coming Up Winners podcast. So I know you've got a lot to say about this. So share your thoughts, please.
All right. So, Chris, I'll ask you what you think based on what I like. I already like the Chicago Bulls over 30.5 wins. I think there's a lot of value on Chicago given the injuries last year. Markkanen, Carter was a young kid. Dunn's always hurt. I like the young kid, Kobe White. Chicago's for sure an over 30.5 wins in the weak East.
Yeah, that was one I saw that I was like, oh, yeah, they went a little low on that one. Yep. So I'm with you on that, especially in the East.
3 quick unders. Number 1, Memphis, 27.5. They are one of the worst teams in the league. Super young roster. I don't see a path to 25 wins for them. I like under 27. Charlotte might have the worst team in the league. They lost Kemba Walker, and they replaced him with scary Terry Rozier. They're under 24.5.
Wow, just dissing Terry Rozier.
I mean, like, come on. Terry Rozier can't run a team. And then finally, the L.A. Clippers. 55.5 wins is the line. I guess people are betting it. A bunch of people see, they got Kawhi and Paul George. Chris, explain to everybody about load management. Kawhi is not playing 65, 70 games for this Clippers team.
Well, they had load management last year with him, and they went, I think, 17-5 without
that was
Kawhi
a veteran.
Toronto.
That was a veteran team now.
And this isn't?
Well, I mean, look at the bench. After the
they
first,
got a star. They didn't have another star besides him. Yep. Not on Paul George's level. They do have veterans. Look, they're in the West, so it'll be tougher. But I think that's about – I think I'm going to say they will be over. That's going to be close, but I'll say they'll be over.
See, here's the thing, though. They took people by surprise, Chris, last year. Nobody was expecting this team to do well, and then they were shocking the world.
Right.
I mean, I worry about the depth. They have no size. There's not a lot of room for error on the interior. I do like the young kids they drafted.
Who's got size nowadays?
Anthony Davis.
Denver, but
DeMarcus Cousins.
Jokic plays outside.
The Lakers have 3 pretty good centers. JaVale McGee, to give Anthony Davis some load management. I mean, listen, I like the Clippers. Obviously, they're going to be right there in the Western Conference Finals. I just 55.5 wins. Chris, what we're seeing, and we could do 20 minutes on this, is the smart teams are not wearing down their stars in irrelevant regular season games.
Well, the only team that had incredible load management was Toronto with Kawhi. I mean, you had guys missing 5-7 games here or there for rest, but nothing like what we saw with Kawhi.
But I think based on what we saw with Kawhi, that was smart of them. Let's copycat. You know, the NFL's a copycat league. I think the NBA will have a lot of copycat.
That is one reason I'm not putting too much stock in the regular season records. Like, I don't care what the Lakers' record is. They're going to be tough in the postseason. So you may remember him flying above the rim and throwing it down with grace and beauty and power. He won the slam dunk contest during his day. Desmond Mason. Desmond, what's happening, man?
How you doing, man? How's everything going?
We are great, man. It's great to have you on. We thank you for joining the Odd Couple. And let's get right into it. Look, you played with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant in Westbrook's rookie year. What were your thoughts when you saw the trade of him from Oklahoma City to Houston?
Man, obviously I knew that Sam had to do something. Russell kind of came out, it leaked out, I guess, that he was a little vocal about wanting to find a way to move around, not happy with the situation that has happened over the last, I would say, 4 years, actually since Sam Presti fired Scott Brooks, and then also Kevin Durant going to Golden State. And then Paul George leaves as well, 3 straight years of first-round exits. He was unhappy. And so when I heard about it initially, I said, to myself, you know what, Russell is one of those guys that he's going to force his hand whenever he can. But I didn't know it would happen so quick. And I immediately texted him and wished him the best of luck. But I knew that Sam had a long task ahead, one, rebuilding his team and taking a lot of criticism with
losing not only 3 MVP players and future Hall of Famers, but losing another one in Carmelo Anthony, who I think is a future Hall of Famer, trading him to Houston, and then Paul George walking away, who is definitely potential Hall of Famer, and Serge Ibaka, probably one of the best defenders in the paint to ever play it. So it's going to be a struggle here for a while.
Hey, what's up, Desmond? Jason McIntyre here. I got a quick question for you. When you look at the stat time of possession, the amount of time a player has the ball in his possession, James Harden led the league last year, 9.3 seconds. Okay? Russell Westbrook was third in 7.7. Desmond, please explain to me how on earth this is going to work when essentially you have the 2 biggest ball hogs in the NBA on the same team.
I think you've got to find a way to, if the league will allow, to put another basketball on the floor more than anything. Like I think with and I agree with that. I thought with Chris Paul, I really thought I played with Chris when he was a rookie, when the team got moved from New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina in Oklahoma City, and he was just a great young player. I mean, he was a very, very talented guy, very humble guy, and I think we all can see and we all have seen that, you know, time, success, and finances can change people. Chris Paul is now being labeled as a really hard teammate, a hard guy to play with. That's not the guy I remember from Oklahoma City. But I thought it would work with him and James Harden. And obviously that wasn't the case. Chris is a pass-first guy. We all know James Harden is a very ISO-oriented guy, and I don't have an issue with that because he's probably the best, if not one of the top few best ISO players in the game. But Russell Westbrook needs the ball, and if he doesn't have the ball, he's a little upset about not having the ball. So even though they played together in Oklahoma City, these are 2 different guys now. You got 2 MVPs now that have led teams. They have been the man on their teams. Kevin Durant really left because he couldn't coexist with Russell Westbrook, along with some other things. And now James Harden's got himself another Chris Paul, but just more aggressive, in my personal opinion.
Desmond, which guy, Charles Barkley came out and said Westbrook needs to be off the ball and not play point guard. I actually think Harden is the one who has to adjust more because I think he's more capable. Like, he can shoot. Like, Westbrook can't shoot, and so it's going to be hard for him to be off the ball. Who do you think needs to make the biggest adjustment?
Honestly, this is the same scenario I felt in Oklahoma City for quite a while. I remember watching it when Russell was young, watching him play off the ball with Eric Maynor, watching him play off the ball with James Harden in that Dallas series where Scott Brooks just pretty much benched him, watching him play off the ball a little bit with Kevin Durant. He's gotten accustomed to playing with the ball now, and that's kind of what he likes and wants to do, be a guy that kind of leads and creates. He's just an aggressive guy. But with James Harden, I think James Harden is better with the ball as opposed to off the ball because his shots, the shots that he's comfortable with, they come in a scenario where he's kind of stepping back, he's in his dribble, he's making his moves. I don't have an issue with Russell Westbrook catching the ball on a kind of a quick penetrating pitch to the wing, and he has a live dribble with guys closing out on him. Even though he's not a great shooter, people are still gonna close out on Russell Westbrook.
Right.
So I like Russell with the ball with a live dribble as opposed to James Harden with the ball with a live dribble.
Yeah, Desmond, I do have to go back to what you said about Chris Paul. Chris Paul could actually make 3-pointers, okay? For his career, 37%. I know last year he wasn't great, only 35, but prior to that, 38%, 41%. Russell Westbrook is one of the worst 3-point shooting point guards in the league. I mean, you saw him up close. You know this. 4 out of the last 5 years, under 30%. So now you're going to tell Russ, who's had the ball in his hands, since Kevin Durant left, hey, go stand in the corner and spot up and make some threes. I can't do that. I don't know, Desmond. I'm telling you. And remember, last note, Mike D'Antoni's in charge of all this. He's a lame duck coach, and all of his assistants just got fired by the owner.
Yeah, Houston was going through quite of a struggle this summer. I mean, I think we were all watching from afar going, okay, here we go. They're going to implode. It's about to all fall apart. They got rid of some defensive players. They fired a bunch of coaches. With Russell Westbrook, and again, having him playing off the ball, he's not going to be happy. I never thought this trade would happen, 1, because I didn't think it would work. 2, I still don't think it's going to work. But with Russell, I still like him. I like him off the ball. And the only issue with Russell Westbrook and 3-pointers is Russell doesn't know timely 3-pointers and how to shoot his threes.
Right.
He just feels like he can pull up behind a screen, which is not his game. But if you let him get his feet set, he can make some shots. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to make a ton of them, but he can make some shots. But he gets down and he takes things personal. And Steph Curry makes a three, he wants to shoot a three. Damian Lillard makes a three, he wants to shoot a three. It's too personal for him as opposed to playing basketball. And Russell Westbrook, last statement about Russell Westbrook is he wants to win, but he has zero idea how to win because winning comes in sacrificing, and that means understanding who you are as a player and making the right plays, and it's all about him. And I think that's going to be the bigger issue is it's James Harden's city, it's James Harden's team, but it's all about Russell Westbrook when he steps in 94 feet.
It's the Odd Couple joined by former slam dunk champion Desmond Mason. Along those lines, Desmond, I've heard a lot of people say, well, they're friends. They wanted each other. They talked about playing together, and, they talked to each other on the phone before this happened. How much of a factor, if any, do you think that will be, the fact that they really like each other and are friendly?
I think that's going to, I think they're going to have a decent season this year. I don't see them having a bad season this year. I think they're going to, shock some people. I think they're going to be really hard to guard with those two guys on the floor. I've already came out and I said, I remember when I played, between 2000 and 2010, especially in the early part of my career, Houston is getting Coutinho Mobley and Steve Francis all over again. Two ISO guys that are going to just be a nightmare to guard from an individual standpoint, but they're never going to do anything because it's going to really be about those two guys. And they're going to be friends, but until it all falls apart, Russell Westbrook and Russell Westbrook and Paul George, they didn't have an issue with each other. Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant early didn't have an issue with each other. But when things go haywire, Russ is very, very aggressive, and that's where the issue is going to happen. Who's taking the last shot? Who's taking most of the shots? Are we passing it one time in the half court, or are we just coming down and shooting it? That's going to be the issue.
Desmond, we know, too, that outside of basketball, you're a very talented artist. Can you kind of tell us, what's been going on with your art and stuff?
Oh, man, it's been since I retired in 2010, it's been a great ride. I've been creating art and painting since I was 11 years old. Now we're at well over 30 solo shows globally. With a great list of collectors now, and some of the stuff I've been getting into in the last 5 years is really apparel design, graphic design. So we've been doing stuff with Adidas, Veuve Clicquot, Louis Vuitton, a new company out of Oklahoma City called Flirty Golf, which is a female golf line, Short Par 4, which is a similar golf line where male golf line, and now they have a female sector as well where, you basically order monthly and you have a subscription and you get apparel through them. But, it's all about creating this really cool vibe. And now I get to do it in the golf world as opposed to doing it in the basketball world on the floor. But it's been a great ride, man. I've been able to do some great stuff. And the only way I'm keeping connected is with basketball is really doing my radio show here, talking to you guys and being on you guys' show, which is a blessing as well. And now we're also in Oklahoma City putting together a facility that's going to facilitate pre-draft NBA camps, also with pre-combine football camps. Obviously, in our area, we got great football players and basketball players, and pushing towards baseball with a buddy of mine named Blaine Dyer here in Oklahoma City. So we're just trying to continue to stay connected to athletics, but also the art world has been part of my life since I was a youth, and continue to push, man. That's all we're doing.
Man, that's great to hear. It's great that you, a lot of guys don't find something they're really passionate about after they retire. So it's great that you found that, and sounds like you're doing great stuff. All right, Desmond Mason joining the Odd Couple.